Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Today we will discuss major parts of the brain and their function. First, we can divide the brain into three major groups, three major parts. First will be forebrain, second one will be midbrain, and the last will be hindbrain. There are basic three major parts of the brain. We will further divide it all these parts in subgroups, in subdivisions, which we will discuss one by one in detail later on. First will be the forebrain. You can divide the forebrain into lot many other major parts, subdivisions. Like first will be cerebral cortex, frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and the last one will be temporal lobe. After lobes, there will also other brain parts like motor cortex, sensory cortex, Broca area, Wernicke's area, basal ganglia, limbic system, and thalamus and hypothalamus, so on. Now we will discuss all these subdivisions, subparts of the forebrain and their function one by one. First will be the cerebral cortex, the uppermost area of the brain at the front, like cerebral cortex. Cerebral cortex perform the different functions like higher order functioning, for example, perception, memory, thinking, problem solving, abstract thinking, and decision making. All these, you can say, the functions performed by the cerebral cortex of the forebrain. Second part will be the frontal lobe. The front area of your brain you can see in the uppermost picture of this slide, frontal lobe. Frontal lobe basically perform executive functioning. What is executive functioning? This is also higher order functioning, for example, thinking, planning, organizing, problem solving, and emotions, so on. So these all types of functions performed by frontal lobe. After frontal lobe, you can see in the picture there is a parietal lobe. The functions of parietal lobe will be perception, making sense of the world, arithmetic, spelling, and etc. These 4, 5, 6, 7 functions performed by the parietal lobe. Third one, occipital lobe. The most important function of occipital lobe will be the vision. Your visual capacities, your visual capabilities performed or controlled by your occipital lobe. At the end, in the lobe uh, functions in the lobe, temporal lobe, the lobe system, temporal lobe. Temporal lobe, you can see where exists in the picture. Temporal lobe controlled memory, understanding, and language. After temporal lobe, another area of the brain, that is motor cortex. Motor cortex basically adjacent with frontal lobe. In the second picture, you can see the red colored area, that is called primary motor cortex. So motor cortex control the motor movement of your body. After that, sensory cortex, the blue colored area of the brain, you can see the right part adjacent with the motor cortex, that is primary somatosensory cortex. Somatosensory cortex controlled sensational activities like touch, pressure, temperature, and pain. After that, Broca area and Wernicke's area. Broca area at the end, the last picture you can see in the at the end of the lower part of the frontal lobe, Broca area exists in red color. Broca area control language production. It is responsible for production of your language. At the end, vernix area you can see exists at the border of the temporal lobe and the occipital lobe. This area is responsible for language comprehension. When you understand, when you comprehend anything, this area will be involved in that. After that, basal ganglia. This is the major part of the forebrain. The basal ganglia is responsible for the movement of the body. When any disturbance created in basal ganglia, it can become the cause of Parkinson disease. After that, limbic system. This is also a major part of the forebrain, which responsible for controlling learning, emotions, and memory of the person. You can divide the limbic system into three major parts: septum, amygdala, and hippocampus. Septum involved in pleasure and aggression. Amygdala involved in defensive state of the person, aggression, and hypersexual state of the person. And the end last part of the limbic system, that is called hippocampus, is responsible for memory and amnesia. Amnesia is the disorder of the memory. And later on, in the last, thalamus. Thalamus basically play a role as a relay station. Relay station means the neural tracks pass through the thalamus from the lower part of the brain to the upper part of the brain. This is except smell sensations. The smell sensations, the nerves involved in smell sensation will not be passed through the thalamus to the upper part of the brain. Instead of all this, thalamus is also responsible for sleeping and waking cycles of the person. After that, hypothalamus is another part of the brain and is linked with the thalamus. Hypothalamus is involved in sex, hunger, thirst, motion, homeostasis, for example, temperature, water balance in the body, and control of autonomic system. You can divide the hypothalamus into further three parts. First is lateral hypothalamus, second is ventral hypothalamus, and third is interior hypothalamus. Lateral hypothalamus will be responsible for your hunger. Ventral hypothalamus is also responsible for your hunger. When uh, a disorder is related to the lateral hypothalamus, when any problem emerge in the lateral hypothalamus, any disturbance created in the lateral hypothalamus, person will feel lack of hunger and will suffer from one type of the disorder that is called aphasia. When on the other hand, in ventral hypothalamus related to the hyperphagia, when any disturbance, any distortion occurred in the ventral hypothalamus, person will feel very hungry. This is another type of the disorder that is called hyperphagia. In hyperphagia, person feel very hungry. The third part of the hypothalamus, that is interior hypothalamus, it controls the aggressive state of the body, person, and the sexual activity of anyone. So this was the forebrain, and we discuss the different parts of the forebrain and their functions one by one. Like I will repeat again: cerebral cortex, frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe, motor cortex, sensory cortex, Broca area, vernix area, basal ganglia, limbic system. Can also be divided into three major parts: septum, amygdala, hippocampus. There is another structure, thalamus, and once again hypothalamus. Hypothalamus can also be divided in three major parts: lateral hypothalamus, ventral hypothalamus, and interior hypothalamus. For remembering all these things, the literature I posted on the slide, and you can write down there, and you can remember. You can do anything with this literature. Thank you very much.